Hello, everyone. Welcome to Just the Two of Us. And I'm so happy that I finally get to share my ketchup recipe with you today. Well, I have tried many recipes over the years, and I just couldn't find the right one. I found some where the taste was good, but the consistency wasn't quite right. Some I found the consistency was good, but then the taste wasn't right. And one thing I found through all of them is that your food never stuck to it, or the ketchup never stuck to your food. Like when you dig in a French fry or whatever, nothing would stick. Well, this recipe checks all those boxes. It has the best flavor, it has the best consistency, and it sticks to your food. So I'm very happy that I get to share it with you today. And it's very easy. There's just a few simple steps. So what I'm going to do today is just go over the ingredients with you right now, but I will put all the instructions, directions, the full recipe down in the video description. So you're going to need about 22 pounds of tomatoes. I'm using mostly paste tomatoes, but I do have a few slicers in here, but you can use half slicers, half paste. If you have more slicers, that's fine too. Maybe just add one or two more tomatoes if you're using slicers because they're not quite as meaty. They're going to cook down a little bit more, but about 22 pounds. And then you're going to need cinnamon, cloves, allspice, cayenne, a few cans of tomato paste, onion powder, vinegar, brown sugar. Mine is homemade, which I think gives it a bit of more richness, white sugar, salt, and thermoflow or clear gel. I use thermoflow, and that's what's really going to help give it the right consistency and have it stick to your food. And you're only going to use a wee little bit of this in a big batch of ketchup. And that's it. That's all the ingredients. So the very first thing we're going to do is I'm going to wash these and I'm going to cut them down to put in my roaster. Now, you cook down your tomatoes the way that you normally would. It doesn't matter how you do it. If you're used to cooking them down on your stove top, if you're used to roasting them in your oven, I'm going to do mine today in my big roaster on the counter because I can just kind of plunk them in there and go about doing other things and just come back and forth and check on them from time to time. But whatever way you normally cook down your tomatoes, you do it your way. What you want in the end is like your runny tomato sauce, and then I will be putting them through my food mill to remove the skins and the seeds. So your end product, you want your tomato sauce without the skins and the seeds, and you'll see as we go along. But that's however you want to cook down your tomatoes, that's up to you. Today I'm choosing to do it in my roaster. So I'm going to get this cleared away and we're going to start cutting these up to put in the roaster, and I'll see you in just a bit. The first thing I'm going to do before I forget is I'm going to add a bit of water at the bottom of my roaster. It seems silly, eh? Because you're going to be taking out water from the tomatoes. But until they get going, I don't want them to stick or burn at the bottom. So I'm just adding a bit of water to prevent any sticking or burning. So, and in case you're new here, we're deep heavy into a kitchen reno. So I'm working with funny angles so you don't see a lot of the mess. So I apologize for that, but everything's functional. Life goes on. So, and because of the kitchen reno, I can't find a lot of my tools. I usually have like a little melon baller thing to get the ends off, but anyway, so I just cut them up like into pieces, toss them into my roaster. These ones are opalkas, and they're just like the meatiest things. I love them. I have opalkas, Amish paste, Salvatera, I know I have another kind and I can't think of it. And if you are using more slicers, fear not. I have a trick to get this sauce thick in a matter of minutes. So don't worry if you have more slicers than paste tomatoes. We're going to thicken this up in a matter of minutes. Okay, so I filled my roaster, and that's what 22 pounds looks like. So for now, I'm going to put it up about 350 just to get it going. And as it cooks, it's all going to get lower and fill up with water. I'll come by probably about every hour or so and drain out the water and give it a stir, and I'll show you what it looks like through the process. I'm going to put the lid on and let it do its thing, and once I see it getting hotter, I'll reduce the heat as it comes along. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, it's been going for a couple of hours, just on low now, and very soon I'll be taking out some of the juice that's collecting. For now, I'm just going to let it cook down a little bit more, but you can see how much it's reduced already. So I'm going to let it cook a little bit more, and then I'm going to start taking out the extra juice. About maybe 3 hours in, but like I said, I'm doing this probably slower than you normally would. I have lots of other things to keep me busy in between, so I don't really have to babysit it or anything. So now I'm just going to remove not all of the juice because I don't want it to burn on the bottom or anything. So I'm just going to remove some of it, let it cook down some more, and repeat. There. I'm quite happy with the consistency right now. It's nice and thick with still some liquid. I don't want it completely dry. First of all, it makes it much easier to go through the tomato press. I filled up 2 of these jars, and I would never throw it away to begin with, but we also need at least a cup of it to use in the recipe later on. So what I'm going to do now is just turn it off and let it cool down a bit, so when I do put it through the tomato press, I don't burn myself. So I'm just going to let it sit and hang out here for a bit, and then we'll move on. Okay, I think we're good to go. My tomatoes have cooked down beautifully. I've taken as much juice off as I want, and I've reserved the juice. I have those 2 big gallons or half gallons, and we need at least 1 cup of that, so don't throw it away. And I'm not throwing it away anyway, but I may even add a bit more. I'm going to see how it goes through my tomato press. Now my tomato press is really old. I picked this up at a garage sale, an auction somewhere, but it does the job and we like it. It gets a bit noisy, so I'm only going to show you it going through the mill a wee little bit. Frank's going to do it for me. We kind of do it as a 2-person job. It never came with containers like to put at the back and the front, so we use our own. And in the picture, it doesn't really show you any containers. So we put 1 receptacle here and 1 here, and as they fill up, I empty them. So we do it as a 2-person job, but it's quite a noisy process. So I'll show you a bit of it, but I'm sure you all know what it looks like going through a tomato press. So we're going to get going on that, and then the really fun part starts of making the ketchup. So that's about it. We're almost there. Hold on. All right. Want another spoon? No, with a fork. We always run through the skins and seeds a second time as well. You'll be surprised how much comes out of there a second time.
All the second time.
And look at that running through a second time. Yeah, but run that through again before, because you're going to fill up the wheel too much. Whoa.
That was a good one.
Okay, I mean serious business now because my hair's up. And I don't like cooking, canning, or anything with my hair down. So this amazes me every time. I can't believe 22 pounds of tomatoes or whatever quantity I'm working with ends up looking like that. It just amazes me every time. There's a wee bit more in the wheel of the press, but it's pretty much comes down to that. So now we have this big, lovely pot full of tomato sauce. And normally, this is what I would almost can is tomato sauce. I like my sauce that thick. This is what I would can is tomato sauce. But this isn't thick enough for ketchup. And we're going to be adding a lot of liquid to it to make it even thinner. So this is a trick I developed, and I find the technique works great, and it saves about 4 hours on the stove. So what I'm going to do is put on my glasses so I can see. Now, what I do is I have a bigger one of this, and Kitchen Renos, I can't find it. So this guy's only here to catch this guy. I'm going to pass my sauce through this sieve. And what it's going to do is allow all the extra water or fluid drop out, and it's going to leave me with a beautiful thicker sauce. And you're probably thinking, well, that's a lot of extra work. It's going to take me less than 5 minutes, and it's going to save literally hours cooking down on the stove later on. I do this with my pizza sauce. And I do it with, if I want even thicker tomato sauce, I do the same thing. So to me, 5 minutes now, hours later standing at the stove, it's a win. So I'm actually going to do it. Let me see which one. Because if I had my bigger one of these, I wouldn't need him. And he's going to touch the bottom soon. Well, we're just going to have to work with this for now. I'll have to figure it out as I go along. So I'll show you. I'll bring you in close and show you what I mean. I'll just do one. This is already pretty thick because I use so many paste tomatoes. If you use a lot of slicers, this is a game changer for you because it'll thicken your sauce in no time. I'll do it like this for a minute from here so you can see. But I'm telling you, if you use slicers in anything, in your pizza sauce, in your tomato sauce, whatever, this is a game changer. Because look at all the extra liquid it's taking out, and it's going to leave this in a nice consistency that you don't have to stand for hours at the stove thinking that you have to babysit it because it's going to burn. I just keep moving it around. See, like it's how thick it's getting. Like it's literally like becoming a tomato paste. Because we're going to be adding lots of liquid to it, vinegar, sugars, and water to it when we're cooking it after. I want it thick as can be now so we don't have to stand at the stove later. There. See, I almost have like a, whoa. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to bring you in close now so you can see what I mean and what I'm doing. And now this, oh yeah, see, I should have done it in the other pot. I want my sauce in here and just my liquid in here. So that's what I just did. So I'm putting my sauce in here. So I'm just going to take a good scoop and see how liquidy it is, even though it's a nice thick sauce. Put it through my sieve and just swoosh it around for all the liquid to come out, excess liquid. Like I said, a few minutes now saves hours later. And I don't know whatever made me think to do this. I just did it one day. I thought there has to be a faster way to make something thicker, to make this thicker, to make my pizza sauce go faster. And I just thought of passing it through this, and it worked like a charm. And in no time, look how thick that went. And you're going to be amazed at the end how much sauce we actually got off. So see, now it's like silly putty or something. I don't know how to describe it. It just rolls up. So that bunch is done. We'll do it again. And what you are going to end up in this pot here is beautiful tomato juice, because now you're really getting the good stuff out of this. Like I said, I have a bigger one of this blue thing where I wouldn't have to hold it as much, but I can rest it on the pot and just swoosh it around with the spoon, but I can't find it right now, so you hear all the liquid coming out and see it? The more you move it around, the faster it comes out. You don't have to do this at all. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way or the way you're comfortable with slowly cooking it down on the stove, by all means do that. I just figured this method out and I was so pleased with it. And there we go, a nice sludgy ball of tomato sauce. I wanted to show you how beautiful and thick now our almost paste is. And my recipe says after we pass it through the tomato press, we're supposed to simmer it for 2 to 3 hours to reduce it by half. Well, we just skipped all that step by reducing it by half. So I'm going to keep you zoomed in close so you can see what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do this all here on the counter because I don't have room around my stove to do it. So now we're going to put it on the stove, but first we're going to add all the ingredients to it. So we're going to add 4 cups of white distilled vinegar. have 4 cups of vinegar. And 2 cups of white sugar. And we're going to do 1 cup of brown sugar. My container is so full, I can't get my cup in there. So that's 1. 2. And if anyone's going to go on about how much sugar is in it, you're making a big batch. If you adjust the sugar, you're going to adjust the taste, and then it's not going to be the awesome ketchup that it is. And just remember, when you use ketchup, you're putting a blob on your plate. You're not putting like a cup of it at a time. So if you want to adjust the sugar, that's fine, but then you're going to adjust the taste, and then it won't be the awesome ketchup that it is. So it's not like you're eating a bowl of it at a time. You're using a little bit at a time. And the same goes for the salt. And the salt that's in the store-bought ones and the sugar, it's even worse. So now 1 cup of brown sugar. If you stick to this exact recipe, it's fantastic. As I know everybody tries to cut down on the salt and the sugar, but you're already starting with a much healthier product. So 5 tablespoons of salt. I'm just using the pickling and canning salt. As long as you don't use table salt, you're fine. You can use kosher, sea salt, whatever. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1 tablespoon of onion powder. There we go. A half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Oh, I almost put half a tablespoon. That wouldn't have been good. Half a teaspoon. Half a teaspoon of cinnamon. A half a teaspoon of cloves. And when I first made this, I went, ew, cloves isn't my favorite spice. But you don't even taste it. It all blends so beautifully together. Okay, half a teaspoon of cloves. Half a teaspoon of allspice. Oops, spilly. And half a teaspoon of cayenne. Okay, I'm going to mix this all together. I decided to switch to a whisk instead. And I wanted to show you that juice that we strained out through the mesh strainer. Look at it. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to reserve a cup of this juice to use in the recipe in just a little bit. So I'm going to can that, but it cans at a much longer time than the ketchup. So we're going to have that all mixed in. So just one more thing for now. So the only tomato product I don't can, and I guess I should now that I've kind of developed this little technique of using the mesh strainer, I don't can tomato paste because I always found it took so many tomatoes to make tomato paste that I could be making 2 or 3 other tomato products with what I could with the tomato paste. Like, I get more bang for my buck canning other things. So I don't know, maybe this year I will, although I don't know if I'm going to have the biggest crop of tomatoes because they just started all coming in the past week. But I can every other tomato product that I use, sauce, pasta sauce, diced tomatoes, pizza sauce, salsa. I do all of that. So I am using canned tomato paste. It's the only product up till now that I haven't. I had done it in the past. I just didn't find it worth what the amount of tomatoes you need to make tomato paste. But anyway, you need 46 ounces of tomato paste. It takes quite a bit. So I'm using 4 12-ounce cans, so I'll just leave out 2 ounces. But I've used the 6-ounce cans to make almost 48. So it takes quite a bit, but so I guess if I wanted to say I truly made this all homemade, I would have to make my tomato paste too, but that takes a lot of tomatoes and I can get, like I said, a lot more bang for my buck using it in other products. So I'm just not going to scrape these completely clean, and that'll save me the 2 ounces that I didn't have. So I'm just going to mix this in. So we saved 2 to 3 hours from not cooking this down by half on the stove. So when I have this all mixed in, we are going to move to the stove. And then it says to bring it to a simmer. And then what we're going to do is take 1 cup of our tomato juice and a 1/3 cup of thermoflow. I'll show you it as we're doing it. I'm getting messy. And we're going to mix this into the mix, into the sauce. And that's what's going to give it that extra thickness and to help it stick to our food. But that has to be only when it's warm. So as this comes to a simmer, I'm going to get my water bath canner already set up. And in the time that my water bath canner gets ready, the ketchup will be done. It probably seems longer because I'm stopping and starting and showing you everything to do the video. But in real time, it takes nothing. That's why it's a pleasure to make. It's a pleasure to see how much my husband enjoys it. I'm not a really big ketchup person, but he absolutely loves it. I know what's going into it, and that's thick. And the only other thing I do that the recipe doesn't specify to do, and that's just a personal preference, and I'll bring you in closer so you can see that as well. I'm going to take my emulsion blender and just lightly emulsion blend it so it's even a creamier substance. I've done it both ways and it hasn't mattered to him at all. I'm not going to do the whole thing, I'll just do a wee bit of it. So off to the stove we go to get this to a simmer. And in the meantime, I'm going to get my water bath canner going and we're almost done. How easy was that? And I mean, it's so thick, guys, like I can't tell you. So I'm just letting it slowly come to a simmer. I don't want any big tomato explosions on this stove. So I don't know if you can appreciate how thick it is. It's like quite thick. If you want a runnier, thinner ketchup, don't do as much thinning out as I did. But when I hit it with the emulsion blender, it's going to thin it, the texture out a wee bit as well. But I think it's lovely like this. So it's warming up slowly. I have the water bath canner warming up, and I'm going to get my jar set up soon, and we're almost done. It already smells like ketchup, literally like true good old-fashioned ketchup. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is I'm taking 1 cup of that reserved tomato juice, and I'm slowly going to whisk in 1/3 cup of Thermoflow or clear gel. I've only ever used Thermoflow, but I think they both do the same thing. So I'm slowly going to whisk this in, not all of it at once. And then when we have this all mixed in, we're going to whisk it into our ketchup, and then it's ready to be canned. And as always, I make a mess. I used to have a teeny tiny whisk, and I don't know where that is either. Kitchen renos. We did a kitchen reno. We lived in the suburbs about 15 years ago, and I swore I would never live through another one. And here we are. Now it's mixing in nicely. Just have to make sure this has no lumps in it before you get it into the heat, or you will have lumps. And I think we're good. All right, so we're going to mix this into the ketchup. Okay, so now I'm going to whisk it into the ketchup slowly. Keeping it at a simmer the whole time. Turn it up just a wee bit. Pardon my arm. I'm trying to find a good angle, and I apologize for the bad lighting over here. I don't have a light over the stove yet, so we're trying to make do. There we go. It's all mixed in. My arm's getting sore. Switch arms. We'll just give that a minute or two to simmer together, and then I'll do the emulsion blender, and into the jars it goes. Now, if you like a chunkier ketchup, that's fine. Leave it like this. But my husband prefers it like smooth, like the traditional ketchup. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I've turned the burner off now while I do this. And there we go, all ready to go into the jars. Oh, good golly, it's getting hot in the kitchen. I'm always running on hot. All right, so we have this big, beautiful pot of ketchup. Look at that. It is absolutely thick. It's beautiful. Smells fantastic. My husband came in and did a taste test. I got his seal of approval. So we're going for a 1-inch headspace, and pints are processed at 10 minutes. I used to do mine in pints, but Frank would go through them so fast because he puts ketchup on everything. So I do them in quarts now. So I'm going to process them for 15 minutes. So I do them in quarts now because he was just going through pints way too fast. So I'm just going to fill a few of them, and then I'll put the lids and bands on. So I'll tell you how many quarts I end up and what you would have ended up with pints if you prefer to can them in pints. Ugh. I mean, I should do a slow-mo shot of how beautiful it goes into the jar. My jars are nice and hot, just coming out of the dishwasher. I have like a plate warmer function on my dishwasher that keeps them nice and hot. And again, something else I can't find is my debubbler. So I'm just using what I can. I don't even think these are actual quarts. These are older jars that I got like at an auction, which I love. So I'm putting a clean lid on each jar. I just have them hanging out in some warm water here. Oops, I didn't wipe my rims. I'm getting ahead of myself. A little bit of vinegar. There we go. Now we put on the clean lids. And a clean ring, fingertip tight. I'll put these in the canner and I'll bring you in close while we do a couple of jars, and then we'll get them processed. A 1-inch headspace. I'll do one more. And besides how good it tastes, and we haven't bought ketchup in I don't know how long, but I can't believe how expensive ketchup is if you want the good name brands anyway. Alrighty. Debubble. I might take a little bit out of that one. Mess there. Wipe my rims. Put on a clean lid. Clean ring. Fingertip tight. And into the canner they go. So we'll fill up. I think I have enough for one, maybe two more jars, and we'll head over to the canner. Okay, last one going in. So I have 2, 4, 6 quarts. And I have a little bit too much water. I have over an inch of water. I don't want that to spill over. So I'm going to put the lid on, bring that up to a rolling boil, set my timer for 15 minutes, and then I'll probably turn the heat down just a wee bit so the lid doesn't boil off. And then when the timer is up, I remove the lid, wait 5 minutes, and then I'll take the jars out. I'll bring you back when the timer is up. Okay, my timer just went off. So I'm going to take the lid off, turn off the burner, and set another timer for 5 minutes, and then I can take the jars out. All done. So now we're going to take them out of the canner. And that's how I make my ketchup. It's that easy and delicious. So I got 6 quarts or 12 pints if you do it to roughly the same thickness that I did it. And I find doing it through that wire mesh strainer sieve thing is a total game changer. Not just for the ketchup, for any tomato canning project that I'm doing. It took 3 hours minimum off of this project, and it will for any tomato canning project that you're doing. When I do my tomato sauce, when I do my pizza sauce, I don't have to stand there waiting for it to reduce by half. I don't have to stand at the stove and worry that if I walk away, it's going to burn at the bottom of the pot. I don't have to worry about any of that. I put it through that a fine wire mesh, and I can adjust how thick or how thin I want that product to be. And if you find you've made it too thick, you can always just add back some tomato juice, which is absolutely gorgeous. And you can save hours just by doing it like that. I don't know how I came up with that. One day I just said, there has to be a better way than spending hours in front of the stove reducing something. So that was just a trick I taught myself, and I don't know how. And for the sugar in the recipe, I find by using both the white and the brown sugar, the two together give it a different sweetness than just using one or the other. And I may suggest to you that if you're using store-bought brown sugar, that if you have molasses, to maybe add just a teaspoon or a little dollop of molasses, because I use homemade brown sugar, and I find it's a little bit richer than store-bought brown sugar. So if you could add just a touch of molasses, it might make it a little bit richer, but you don't have to. If you just want to use store-bought brown sugar, that's fine too. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I really hope you give it a try because it's very easy and it's so good. This is just the beginning. This isn't going to last us through the winter. I will be making several batches of this, and this has to get us through till next summer. So I'll probably do this 2 or 3 more times over, and I'm happy to do it because my husband enjoys it so very much. So as always, I appreciate so much that you spend time with me, and until we're together again, take care.